Hey everybody, it's Mr. Marshall. Did you know? Did you know that our country is 250 years old? That's a really long time, and there's a lot of things to celebrate. And so the S in the USA is United States, and so we're going to be learning more about some of the states that make up the United States. So here we go. It's the United States turning 250 years old. Today we are going to talk about the smallest state in the whole United States. And so it's right here. It's so small you probably can't even see that it's highlighted. It's over here, right there in the northeast corner. It's called Rhode Island. Rhode Island. And Rhode Island is one of the 6 states up here in this area. I'm going to show you. Up here, there are 6 states that are some of the oldest states in the United States, and they are called New England. Just because that's what they call them, because they're part of the country that was there when we belonged to England, and they were some of the first states that were settled. So the states in New England are Maine, that's all the way up here, New Hampshire and Vermont, which look like twins, but they're upside down from each other, Massachusetts, which is kind of long, and Connecticut and Rhode Island. So today we're going to think about Rhode Island. Okay? So, first of all, I want to think about, that's a kind of funny name, Rhode Island, because it's not really an island, is it? It's not really an island. An island is a piece of land that's totally surrounded by water. And yes, there's water on this side, but this is all land here. How come Rhode Island is named Rhode Island? I'll tell you. Because Rhode Island was actually named for, if you look really closely, there's lots of little teeny tiny islands in there. Right? Do you see them? And right there in the middle, there's a little island that was called Rhode Island. And they named the whole state after that one little island. That's why Rhode Island is an island that's not an island. It's surrounded by water on one side and land on some other sides. So, you may have heard that all the different states have special things. Like, they have nicknames, and they have state gems, and they have state everything, state songs. Did you know that states have something called the state bird? And that's a bird that's really special to that state and helps to symbolize that state. Rhode Island is the only state that I know of whose state bird is a kind of chicken. That's right. It's a chicken called the Rhode Island Red, because it has red feathers. The people in Rhode Island picked the Rhode Island Red as their state bird because it's a bird that was primarily bred in Rhode Island. Okay? That's where it's from. And so they are really proud of that, and so they are the only state that I know of that has a kind of chicken as their state bird, the Rhode Island Red. Another thing that's really big in Rhode Island is something that's really small. Okay, since there's lots of beaches there, they have lots of different clams. They find clams on the beaches and in the ocean and in the bay, and they get those clams and they've learned how to cook all sorts of things with them. There's a kind of soup called clam chowder, and so there's different kinds. There's New England clam chowder, which is white and creamy. There's Manhattan clam chowder, which is red and kind of tomatoey, I guess. But Rhode Island clam chowder has clear broth. That means you can see through it and see all the clam inside. Now, when you eat the clams, you don't eat the shells because you'll break your teeth. But these are some of the clams, and these are actually, this is the biggest kind of clam, I think, that you can find in Rhode Island, I think. And it's got a funny looking name. It's called a quahog. A quahog. And that's one of the biggest kinds of clams that you'll find anywhere. And you find them all over Rhode Island. Okay? And so the quahog is a kind of clam. So I told you that Rhode Island was one of the 13 original colonies. It's one of the first states, right? And so that means that they had a big part in the American Revolution in 1776. So a couple things you should know is one of the big battles that happened in the American Revolution was this. There was a ship that was coming from Britain called the Gaspee. The Gaspee. And the people in Rhode Island were so angry at the British that they actually went out and they burned the Gaspee on the water. And that was one of the earlier battles in the American Revolution. In fact, if you know anything about the American Revolution that happened 250 years ago, it started when the colonies signed what's called the Declaration of Independence, which was a letter to the king that said they didn't want to be part of part of his country anymore. And Rhode Island was actually the first state that sent a message to the King of England saying, we don't want to do this. So the Declaration of Independence was written in July 1776. In May 1776, Rhode Island sent a letter saying, we're tired of you. We don't want to be part of your kingdom anymore because you're not fair, right? So states have nicknames, and Rhode Island has a nickname too. It's called the Ocean State. It's called the Ocean State because if you look at Rhode Island, even though it's surrounded by land on 3 of its sides, if you look really closely at all those little islands, anytime you're walking along the edge of a state or a country near the water, that's called shoreline. And if you add up all those little islands, Rhode Island has hundreds and hundreds of miles of shoreline that's all connected to the bay, which is connected to the ocean. And so Rhode Island is called the Ocean State. That's its nickname. That's what it's known for. That's what it's proud of. So Rhode Island is the teeniest, tiniest little state in all of the 50 states, but there's so many important things about it, about its history, about its geography, and why it's a part of this United States of America that's turning 250 years old. I'll see you next time.